Tonight on Joynews Prime, supporters of both the governing NPP and opposition NDC staged protests in parts of the country over recently declared election results.
No peace, no peace, no peace.
Some supporters of the NPP have also taken issue with party executives they believe were responsible for the defeat of the parliamentary candidates.
So we say, I'ma say, I am a hearing, and Untino, I'ma say, NPP Nibia and Twaba, and Fema Ono, I'ma say. President Akufo-Addo is meanwhile urging all Ghanaians to play their part to ensure the country is held together.
It is important that all of us remember that each one of us has the responsibility for the peace of our nation. It is not just government, it is each single citizen of our nation has that responsibility. And I'm confident.
In another development, the Electoral Commission has denied reports the chairperson has left the country after declaring the results of the presidential election. In business,
President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association says Nigeria's decision to reopen its border is due to the economic costs.
Inflation has skyrocketed at all time. They are at recession, all because of the closure.
Also in the bulletin, the driver of the passenger bus whose attempt to overtake caused a road crash at Dompoase, which claimed 34 lives, an accident which claimed 34 lives, has been sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. My name is Israel. Joynews Prime is coming to you live from our Founder for Studios at Kokolumle here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. It's been a day of protests across the country as hundreds of party supporters from both the New Patriotic Party pour out and the governing the New Patriotic Party and the opposition NDC pour out their anger over what they say are discrepancies in the results announced by the Electoral Commission from last Monday's elections. At a news conference in Sefi Yoso, the constituency in the Western North region, the NDC said it will not accept the parliamentary election results declared by the EC for the constituency. The party claims one ballot box from Asawinso, a stronghold, was stolen. Hence, figures were not added to the final results, which declared the NPP candidate a winner.
We will never accept any flawed election. Our results number, and for the first time, Electoral Commission different figure altogether. Sounds like that. Which means to say on one case and with respect to the figures the candidates, the various candidates but to the surprise of NDC, all the 12 candidates, with the exception of President.
In the Tishiman South constituency, where 2 people were shot dead and others injured in shootings over the results, the NDC held a news conference to demand justice and a recollation of the results declared in favor of the NPP candidate. General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Yesiedun Ketia, stressed the party still does not recognize that election results collated at the Bono East Regional Coalition Center, adding the purported declaration should be nullified.
Nana number be adru anibra so efri say onipa dasani aboni krimu pose opese osisi yan internet ya frame a onipa bia owo electoral commission ha no wakoje adamudie no ode krata bia sie no waye bo apaye bi sa abatu ayetu osisi ndc for the nana munyini free ase nana no me say nipa bia owo electoral commission ha no wakoje sika wakoje adamudie ananse wonam kuntu asibi no osese ye figures ama abaya 2 years ya.
Well, the MPP in the constituency has meanwhile been responding to these allegations at a news conference held here in Accra.
Honorable Martin Ajay-Mensah Kosa, the MP-elect, had 49,682, and Christopher Bailey of the NDC had 49,205. This obviously made Honorable Ajay-Mensah Kosa as the winner of the Techiman South constituency elections. Let's note some inconsistencies in the narration of the NDC. Former President John Dramani Mahama addressed a press conference in which he gave the NDC candidate 54,170 votes as against Honorable Ajay-Mensah 49,825. His General Secretary Asiedun Ketia had a different press conference. He also gave Christopher Bailey 50,569 and Honorable Ajay-Mensah Kosa 49,874. And these are two leading figures of the NDC, giving us two different figures. How can we trust such an inconsistent leaders who want to lead this nation? The NDC claims that we used the soldiers to overturn the results. In other words, they said that we brought a lot of soldiers there to intimidate their people. Of course, they are the national security. They have to protect national officers doing their legitimate work. We have all the pink sheets. We have all our pink sheets. So anybody who claims that we don't have our pink sheet is lying. Because if you remember, yes, even at the collation center, when the electoral commission were looking for pink sheets, they were consulting us. Because we managed to gather all our pink sheets few hours after close of polls.
Was accusing the Electoral Commission of fraudulently declaring Ahmed Ibrahim of the NDC as winner of the parliamentary elections in Banda with forged figures. At a news conference addressed by the Bono Regional Chairman, Kwame Bafo, the party says the Commission's officer at Banda announced figures that had the subtotals of all the figures from the 45 polling stations, not reflecting the total on the pink sheet. He argues 51 votes were missing from that of the MPP, while the NDC had 60 extra votes. He says the party is petitioning the EC and wants a review of the results collated and come back to declare results that will reflect the true will of the people to avert an escalation of the situation in Banda. There's more from Precious Semebo.
Explaining how the EC stole the will of the people of Banda in the parliamentary elections, and while the NPP did not sign the pink sheet, Bono Regional Chairman of the party, Kwame WAFU, says the declared result of 8,195 for the NPP candidate, Joe Dankwa, and 8,276 for Ahmed Ibrahim of the NDC is inconsistent with the total figures from the 45 polling stations, including special voting, on the EC's pink sheet. He alleged the declared result has 51 votes taken from the NPP, while 60 votes added to that of the NDC, resulting in Ahmed Ibrahim being declared as the winner, describing it as fraudulent and a dubious sham.
The results declared by the Electoral Commission at the Banda constituency does not reflect the will and right of the people of Banda, and that same is fraudulent, deceitful, and not only a scam, but a dubious sham. Per the figures of the Electoral Commission's pink sheet available to all stakeholders, the subtotal of all the figures does not reflect the grand total stated on the pink sheet. Upon a proper collation, the MPP's candidate, who is the MP elect in waiting, gained 8,246 of the total valid vote cast, whereas the NDC candidate also gained 8,219 votes, meaning that the MPP candidate, Honorable Joe Dankwa, won the election with a slim margin of 27 votes. Due to this miscalculation and several irregularities that occurred at the stronghold of the NDC, our agent did not sign the final pink sheet, thereby giving us a legitimate reason to reject the flawed result declared by the EC in the Banda constituency.
He said they are petitioning the EC and want a proper review of the results and a winner declared to reflect the will of the people to avert an escalation of the already charged atmosphere in Banda.
We are by this press conference calling on the Electoral Commission to review the results collated and come back to declare results which will reflect the true will and right of the people to prevent any uncalled for violence. Let me conclude by sending a word of caution to the NDC that we shall not tolerate the use of thugs, vagabonds, and criminals in the constituency to intimidate the electoral officers and indigenous in the constituency. We shall use all the necessary and available means to protect and defend our ballots. Let me also add that the MPP will never resort to violence, but however, should the constituency be plunged into chaos, the Electoral Commission will have itself to be blamed because they have prepared the grounds and the platform for same.
For Joynews, Precious Semebo, Sunyani.
West Regional Capital, while NPP supporters there are turning on their own. They're demanding the resignation of the regional minister and other party executives for allegedly working against the party's candidate in the constituency. Well, in the Eastern region, the MPP in the Kutia constituency is asking the party to suspend the MP for the area, Amase, for her role in the party's loss.
And Constituency Secretary, Eugene Champo, your communication officer, I Samuel Saforo, I don't want to friend brother, and you're my bonny on my way. No, we don't want to NDCT. As I say, a DNA is for me. Make us the same way, I just saw NDC. I am NDC candidate, a friend of Okoyo. And he's saying, send the chairman kind Penifone Kasai. Yamuya Kiamanko independent. Na Kaluba boy, I'm here. That's why I was born in the Anaya Wadimano, 80 candidate, Okuyo, and Anko. The last time we said, Nanado, dear, I had Papa. It was so Biase Oyanto about Enfamano, Epipinidian Tobano, Enfama Nanado. No parliament in India, and the one drink, the bachelor, no one to offer. Oh, yeah, no, I eat the phone. Picture me that so. Now, the actual Bia, Sabi Channel, Ayokoyo. No, we start to say, I know, I just say, I see the cool, any Okoyo. I don't know, yeah, no, Okoyo, so the NDC chairman, I'm a general. Now, I'm also actually say, I must say, I am a hearing. I don't know, I must say, MPP in India and Twaba. And from our own, I must say, now MPP, the near see the shoe. So I don't see the brain. I just say the air cannon. And the prayer. Only one year. Only one year.
We're joined by security analyst FESTUS ABOAGYE to explore some of these developments. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we've heard various stories having to do partly with people protesting about results, but there are others also having to do with internal wrangling at the party level. Are we to see these protests for what they are, protests, or there could be more to these protests?
So I think there are underlying. Sorry. First of all, thanks for having me, Israel. My understanding is that there could be underlying reasons why, on both sides of the divide, you have these kinds of agitation. Let's remember that the EC went into the voter registration exercise, exhibition, and these elections with a trust deficit. And therefore, it was obligatory on the part of the EC to have been as transparent as necessary, especially regarding the casting of the ballots, one, the counting of the ballots at the ballot stations, with or without any petitions and recounts and so on, and then the constituency level collation. It appears to me that owing to a number of factors, including some malpractices on the part of a few EC officials, and attempts on both sides, the MPP and DC, try and influence the ballots, and the lack of transparency surrounding how the EC computed the final figures or the summary, which, as we now know, was riddled with computation errors. All of these are added together to compound the lack of trust, giving grounds for, the perception that probably all is not well with the process. So I've suggested that it's not too late for the EC to engage with the stakeholders and share with them the spreadsheet on the basis of which it arrived at the figures, corrected figures that it arrived at. Let the parties bring out their pink sheet. Let them resolve any and all discrepancies. Let them come to a broad or reasonable consensus around the figures. Then we can demand of the parties to call on their supporters to exercise restraint, and assure them that they are going to use other measures to try and resolve whatever the outstanding issues are. I want to emphasize that it is not sufficient. Although we are all calling for restraint on the part of the political stakeholders, that alone is not sufficient. The underlying reasons why the agitations are taking place are the issues that we must all seek to address. And it's only the EC, as the election management body, which can, at this stage, address those issues.
You say that it is not too late for them to engage, the EC to engage the political parties, but really the results have been declared and we know who the winner is. What is going to change?
Now, I've had occasion to explain that there are about two sides of this electoral framework. One side is the legal framework, which is very, very clear. The other side is the practice, the traditions that we have evolved as a society. And one of those traditions is that in years gone by, the EC used to call political parties, and tell them what the results are, share it with them, and seek their inputs or their observations and whatever, get their consensus before going out to do the announcement. Now, let's look at the first set of figures which the EC announced, after which it came back to say that over 300,000 plus, had been, if you like, wrongly added. In other words, we had voted in excess of 100%. People are asking, what is the basis of the 300,000 plus number? How do you break them down? To which party? Those deductions that were made, -1 to, I think, Ekweadonko or whichever party, plus so and so to MPP, minus this, minus. How did the EC arrive at these things? The EC must sit around the table. You see, the results that were announced are not final. But as we all know, in the final analysis, any of the two parties can go to court. And indeed, both parties have signaled that they are going to court. But it is better for us to use other mechanisms to resolve the differences and let the court be the final arbiter if all else fails. As far as I'm concerned, the results are contestable. They are not final. That's what the EC has said. And there are parties, both sides, which are saying that, no, we don't accept these figures in totality.
All right. Thank you very much, Colonel FESTUS ABOAGYE, retired, the security analyst. The Techiman Circuit Court, presided over by His Lordship Justice Alexander Graham, has sentenced a 39-year-old Christian Nukwata, a resident of Tato, Bato near Kwame Nansu in the Senate West District of the Bono East region, for interfering with ballot box without authority. The accused person on December 7 at about 5:43 p.m. after the close of polls without lawful authority made away with the parliamentary ballot box. He was later pursued and arrested, but the retrieved ballot box was without the seal of the MPP. The accused pleaded guilty and has been sentenced to pay a fine of 300 penalty units and in default serve a 6-month imprisonment term. In addition, the accused has been sentenced to 3 months imprisonment and has been disqualified from voting in the next 5 years. The Senate West constituency parliamentary seat remains the only outstanding parliamentary result yet to be declared by the EC in the just-ended general elections. Our correspondent Anas Sabit joins me with more. Anas, so it turns out that this is what is holding the EC from declaring the Senate West constituency result. Does it mean that now that this ruling or this sentencing has happened, we're going to see a new development?
Actually, this is not what is holding the EC from declaring that particular result. What the EC have been waiting for is a directive from the Electoral Commission in Accra on what to do with that particular ballot box that was snatched by the said gentleman. When they retrieved the ballot box, they had the NPP seal broken. So there is a contention over there as to whether the content of that particular ballot box had been tampered or not. So the EC is waiting for a directive on whether to add the content of that particular polling station or that particular ballot box to what has already been collated. The difference could change the results, the final outcome of the results as it stands. So that is what is delaying the declaration of that particular constituency here in the Bono East region.
Now, and as the young man also pleaded guilty, what did he say was the reason for snatching the ballot box?
He was unable to tell the court. At a point, he said he did not know what came over him to do what he did. But he pleaded guilty, and then the court had to decide on the sentence. He has been sentenced to 3 months imprisonment, and then he's also asked to pay a fine of 300 penalty units. And in default, he will have to serve an extra 6 months in addition to the 3 months that has been given him. He's also not going to vote in any elections that is going to be conducted by the Electoral Commission for the next 5 years. That is the verdict of the court earlier.
Did his political party affiliation come up at all?
Not really. That is what we are unable to establish, whether he did so for Party A or Party B. But what we know for now is that he might be of interest for either of the political parties. We are not able to establish which of the parties he belongs. But all we can say for now is that the seal of the NPP or the New Patriotic Party was broken before the box was retrieved.
All right, thank you very much, Anas Sabit, bringing us that update there. But still ahead, we're taking a break here on Joynews. But still ahead, President Akufo-Addo is urging all Ghanaians to play their part to ensure the country is held together.
It is important that all of us remember that each one of us has the responsibility for the peace of our nation. It is not just government, it is each single citizen of our nation has that responsibility. And I'm confident that the good...
And then the Electoral Commission has denied reports that chairperson of the commission has left the country after declaring the results of the presidential election. They issued a statement and we'll be sharing that statement with you. Up next, we're bringing you business news.
Hello, good evening. It's time for business. I'm Charles Aite. The president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obin, says the economic impact as a result of the closure of the borders in Nigeria is forcing Nigerian authorities to reconsider their decision. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari announced that they're considering to reopen land borders that were closed more than a year ago. Now, the closure, according to the authorities, was to control the smuggling of goods from neighboring countries. Now, sources say that Nigeria first showed its willingness to reopen the border last month amid skyrocketing food prices and increased calls for reopening of the borders. Dr. Joseph Obin believes that the situation has become very much desperate for Nigerians. He spoke earlier on the marketplace.
Nigeria has just realized that they cannot live in isolation, and that the opening of their borders is only at the instance of their citizenry, who have come under a lot of pressure and suffering as a result of the closure. I've told you before that the goods that were locked up, even at Benin, most of these goods belong to Nigerians who have come to other West African countries to buy their goods, that they find their goods locked up there. Their citizens have actually suffered. And so it is at the instance of their own citizens who are suffering because they cannot live in isolation. That's the reason why the borders is being closed.
So you feel that they are being pinched by the pressures of inflation? Do you feel that the pressures of inflation is pinching the Nigerian government to reopen its borders?
So their inflation has skyrocketed at all time. They are at recession, all because of their closure. So whatever the intention, whatever the aims, I think they miscalculated it. And that's why they are now opening. So it's not as a result of any pressure that is coming from other West African countries. It is totally for their own benefit, because they've signed up to the Continental Free Trade Area. And if their manufacturers and their traders will have a full benefit, then they have to do this. It's as a matter of urgency even for them to open, especially when the Continental Free Trade is bound to start from January onwards. Okay. So whatever thing that is happening now is because of their own benefit and not from outside.
Now, the Lands Commission, together with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, has begun putting in place processes to go fully digital. They have therefore developed online portals for individuals, some selected corporate entities, and mobile applications. Let's hear from Benjamin Arthur, the Director of the Land Evaluation Division of the Lands Commission.
Pilot areas that we are digitized, we began to put in place processes and business flows that will operationalize that. So currently we have developed a lot of online portals for individuals, for some selected corporate entities, and even mobile applications that can help us deliver some of these services.
Which of the services would you be delivering?
So now
by these means?
We have currently rolling out incrementally our search services. So now you can submit an application for a search report online by properly scanning the plan and then filling in the required information and submitting it online.
You don't want to miss the maiden edition of the Joy Business Brick and Mortar, which shows at 4 p.m. tomorrow on Joy Prime. Now, it's been a very difficult year for everyone. The year COVID-19 disrupted businesses, caused job losses, and stretched economies thin. Among the worst impacted were entrepreneurs, and on the marketplace, from now towards the end of the year, entrepreneurs will be sharing their survival stories. Today, we heard from Gideon Denjo, owner of fashion brand Gideon, that's Giddings, together with Oscar Coppola Mauli, a niche artist, as they shared with us their COVID-19 experiences and the solutions they impacted.
2020, we projected that we are going to make so much and also even expand. But COVID hit us in March, and we had to re-strategize our business model. We had to look at different ways of doing business. We've been resilient in one way or the other.
Let me rake in Mauli as well. You are a very special artist in your own niche. This is pure human contact, human-to-human contact, which of course is one of the main causatives of COVID-19, attracting the virus. So moving forward, looking at how personal your work is, how are you going to reposition yourself to stay safe and to keep your clients safe as well?
Okay, so we are looking at procedures by using safe African mask, which is this is one of its examples. So we use that like to cover their face to prevent the spread of the virus, should in case they might be infected with them.
The question was, what kind of footwear would people need at the time? And so we realized that in the middle of COVID or lockdown, we were producing formal shoes for work. Weddings, work, and all that. But we realized that there was more like a limitation on those things. So we had to restructure and halt production and reproduce slippers, sandals, and form easy wears. And that was our recovery product for COVID-19. And that kept us afloat. And a reliance on digitization. And so we had to onboard on several e-commerce platforms so that we could sell and spread our tentacles to reach out to other customers.
I believe one other tool that you adopted was the reduction of sales, discounts.
Exactly.
Due to the lockdown, I was able to work on my social media reach and social networking tools. So I think for now, my next plan is to expand my social media reach, as I said earlier. And I'm working on projects for myself to depict our culture. And, you know, due to the COVID, the virus, there has been so many incidences outside the diaspora. So I'm also inculcating that in my art to also speak for we Africans and those in diaspora during these crucial times.
And those were some entrepreneurs sharing how they've survived COVID-19, staying afloat amid the pandemic. That said, by way of business, we're back after 8. Sport is up next.
Sports. My name is Hans Mensah Ando, and Ghana's Black Satellites will on Saturday, December 12th, take on Ivory Coast in their second Group B game at the ongoing WAFU Zone B Cup of Nations in Benin. Head coach of Ghana, Abdul Karim Zito, has been speaking ahead of the game. He expects the Black Satellites to beat their West African neighbors to top spot.
Well, for now, we've already qualified. The expectation is
Now, what we are waiting to gain out of Cote d'Ivoire's game is either I'll be first or second. At the end of the day, we've qualified. So we should expect to top the group by Saturday.
Okay. Is there any pressure playing in this tournament?
Well, with me, there's not, but pressure is everywhere, especially with the players who have just tasted their first time in the tournament such as this. Well, we are ready for the ultimate, and then we started well by winning. So now we are breathing the air of importance for qualifying to the semi-finals, and that is where I would say the pressure to qualify will come. But normally we take the pressure to the body but not to the heart.
Okay. Coach, your message for Ghanaians?
Well, we need them to support us. We need them to pray for us because we know Ghanaians believe in prayers. And then at the end of the day, we come back home and then we enjoy. And then you all will breathe the air of importance for qualifying for the African AFCON.
Now the Ghana Premier League is back after taking a short break as Ghanaians went to the polls. There are intriguing games to look forward to this weekend. Here is a preview by my colleague Asari Bediako.
Hearts of Folk are yet to hit the heights expected this season after picking up 2 points from their first 3 games. New coach Costa Papic sat in the stands as the side were once again wasteful in front of goal, missing key chances in a goalless draw with table toppers Karela. Against Dreams, Papic will be on the sidelines controlling affairs. His immediate mandate will be to get the Phobians scoring again. After scoring 2 goals against Ash Gold on match day 1, Hearts have failed to hit the back of the net in 2 consecutive games. Dreams have been a tough nut to crack for teams this season, keeping 2 clean sheets against Inter-Allies and Legon Cities. However, the Still Believe boys have blown hot and cold this season, picking up 5 points from 3 games. In other week 5 games, Inter-Allies lock horns with Bechem United, while Ebusia Dwarfs entertain Mediema SC in Takwa. Asgold clash with Elmina Sharks at the Lenclay Stadium. Liberty Professionals are up against Great Olympics. Ediana Stars, Wafa and Karela will meet 11 Wonders, Brecum Chelsea and Ken Faisal respectively.
And those are some cracking fixtures coming up in the Ghana Premier League this weekend. And speaking of the Ghana Premier League, currently ongoing at the Accra Sports Stadium, Asante Kotoko leading Legon Cities FC by a goal to 0 from the penalty spot. Osman Ibrahim with a goal for the Porcupine Warriors. Let's check out the fixtures for games coming up in the Premier League this weekend. Wolves will play Aston Villa, Newcastle United up against West Bromwich Albion. Manchester United versus Manchester City. That's a cracking one this weekend. And Everton will play against Chelsea. All of those games on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Southampton will play against Sheffield United. Crystal Palace play Tottenham Hotspur, and Fulham up against Liverpool. Looks a certain 3 points for Liverpool, but hey, you never know. Arsenal also playing against Burnley. Leicester City will play Brighton and Hove Albion. Well, that's it for this installment. We'll bring you more later in the bulletin.
It's the time for Showbiz, and Becky Bex is here. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Easy. How you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. Election headquarters. I love election headquarters.
And we love you too.
Oh, thank you so much. Let's congratulate Kelvin Boy.
Okay.
Because he's made it. Well, for me, because if I get in an interview with Ellen or Wendy Williams or Oprah, I'll say that I've
So
made it.
who did he get an interview with?
No. So he had an interview with the Billboard magazine, and he's been, selling Ghana to the rest of the world. He's been talking a lot about Afrobeat music. Remember that he released his new album called Black Star Album, and it's just all about celebrating Afrobeat, trying to get Afrobeat to the rest of the world. And so he is taking us there. He featured on Billboard magazine first. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but he is the first Ghanaian to be featured on Billboard magazine, and we want to...
I wouldn't know. You should.
Oh, that's easy. You should know, but he's the first, which is the reason why, it's a big deal for us here in Ghana. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations.
For pushing Ghana to the rest of the world. Izzy, what would be your biggest regret in life?
I actually haven't thought about it. I don't think I have much to regret.
Yeah, but in a recent interview with legendary ABOAGYE Adolfo, I remember his song. I don't want to bleach my skin. Well, I haven't thought about bleaching my skin, so I can't talk about it.
So you're naturally fair.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Let's talk about Miss V. Miss V is out with a new album.
Okay.
Yes, let's listen to her tell us all about the album, what the album entails, and the idea behind releasing this album. Invisible album is out. You know that Miss V, she's been through a lot, and this album speaks a lot.
She was off the scene for a while.
For a while, but she's bounced back, and here we go. But there's a song, Ayeka. Have you listened to the song? Let's listen to this political song.
Really? Because it goes like Jai John, no?
Nana Neba. Yeah. So that's the reason why people are saying that it's a political song, and
so stop being the John. Stop being John.
Why are you saying? Why are you stressing on the John?
Because that's what that's how she puts it.
Yeah. So I don't know, but she actually said that it's not true, Izzy.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Becky Beck, for bringing us Showbiz.
Anytime.
And that'll be it for those watching on Joy Prime. But there's more news on the Joynews channel. Do stay tuned in. Now, the Electoral Commission has required us on true reports that its chairperson, Jean Mensah, has travelled out of the country after declaring the result of the 2020 presidential election. Speculations on social media suggest the chairperson is now in a foreign country and is facing deportation to Ghana. But in a statement Friday, the Electoral Commission said the attention of the Electoral Commission has been drawn to information circulating on social media claiming that this chairperson travelled outside the country after declaring the 2020 presidential election result. We wish to state that Mrs. Jean Mensah, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, as well as the commissioners, are at post discharging their legally mandated duties. The public is therefore urged to disregard this fake news. And that's coming from the Electoral Commission. Elsewhere, the Executive Director of the Institute for Democratic Governance, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, has urged political parties to be minded by the peace pact signed prior to the December 7 election and resort to amicable channels of resolving all disputes. He said the legal process is the way to settle all election-related grievances. He spoke with Mamavi Osuabaje.
Probably the pink sheet issue would not have a reason, but the Supreme Court decision, whoever filed the writ and then decided that pink sheets for transparency have to be shared and so on. NDC says they have all the pink sheets to make their case. That sounds like they have the solid basis to go to court for the determination to be made on both. So for me, that is the first principle, but the first part, where the Supreme Court would decide, but it's litigation, and litigation does not always suit, because there's a winner and a loser, and sometimes it can polarize. The Kenyan example that I proved is one that seeks reconciliation, especially when your numbers are not strong. I don't think whoever wins has strong numbers to govern the country and do what they like. It looks like the electorate has spoken. They want some kind of different way of winner takes all, majority overrides minority kind of government, which we've had. The margins are so little in Parliament, frankly, and there are major things that you can't do if you don't have the opposition support. And the president doesn't really have some huge thing, although that is a different matter. Once you win, you have everything. So I think that the court process for me is first, or the NDC decides that, look, we would not go to court, but they would engage. The president himself has to engage in a way that resolves, and really justice must be sought. I believe they should go to court, but it should not exclude other ways of also engaging to see what really did the voters say and what changes how would they serve them. Mama B, the last thing I would say is this. In our history in the Fourth Republic, it looks like the trend is not changing. The voters would always give a party after the first term a second term. So we've not seen one-term presidency. MPP tried to give NDC under the late President Mills and subsequently President Mahama a one-term. They were so determined, but they were not successful. And that is where we are. 2012 is what we are witnessing in 2016. But if you look at it in the context of in the general context, the trend since 1992, it may be the voters changing their mind, but this time, whatever has happened has left us in some dreadlock or deadlock. Do you see? So you could tell that it's probably a repetition of the trend, but the margins are so tiny that probably one-term presidency and party in governance is something nearer. But for this one, there's a controversy. And if the two leaders committed to go to court, if they wouldn't concede, then they should use the judicial process. I believe they have to do that. It's a matter of integrity. And for the investigations to be done thoroughly with their evidence, who knows what the Supreme Court might decide.
Dr. Akwete, if you can hear me, Benjamin here. Now, I'd like to just find out, speaking about those slim margins, and as one who has vast experience when it comes to governance-related matters, how do you think this is going to impact our democracy, especially considering that in Parliament, we just might have a very slim majority, a majority that could just be one, seat. How is that going to impact the dynamics of our democracy, do you foresee?
Well, democracy is a construction. Okay, it's human beings who shape it and so on. And in crisis, leaders have always found other means, and the lawyers will come and design and craft the law and put up a mechanism and all that. What I see as going is that, well, you might have a split parliament, equal numbers. I hear Senate has not been declared, and there's some controversy, but you could have that, or you could have one leading, or two or whatever. In that situation, the president would find it difficult to push a whole lot of agenda through. In the parliamentary system, this is when coalitions are formed. You don't have the numbers. So you have to get the other side on board to govern. And what they usually say is that they do not call for new elections, but they tell you that the voters, the electorate has spoken, and they interpret what the electorate says. So I find it significant that this time there is some kind of interpretation of where the heartbeat of the electorate is. And they'll say, okay, so how do we interpret that and how do we work? I think that some co-governance will be required. It's not simply a matter of saying, on everything, NDC supporters. It might, if they are in the minority, it's the NDC to decide they want to do that. Otherwise, the way forward in this kind of situation will be that they would agree on a program of work. For example, there are things in NDC manifesto and MPP manifestos that converge. You pull all those things on which there's convergence and say, we agree here. There's consensus, this has to be done. How are we going to do it? So NDC, for instance, just giving an example, or if it's the other way around too, would not necessarily take on ministerial positions. Of course, the president can offer that, and it's up to a party. In fact, the president cannot appoint an NDC person individually to say, because of this, I'm appointing you to be this minister or that. It has to be a negotiation and dialogue with the party. for them to agree. So there has to be some agreement on the work program, on how they are going to go forward, and so that Parliament could get things done. But at the same time, NDC would, or the party that is disadvantaged in this case, would also have to make sure that some of these programs and some of these areas, constituencies and so on, also benefit immensely from programs. It's always negotiated, and you can't always predict the outcome, but it's a human thing, and they can find a common ground. The fact is that we need to find a common ground. The violence is not an option, it will only be destructive. Both parties have contributed immensely to building our democracy, and actually, at the moment as I speak, Ghana's democracy is seen as the democracy that is also helping manage democracy in Africa. There are serious setbacks. Did you see the recent Tanzanian election? Have we seen La Côte d'Ivoire? Did we see Guinea, Mali, and so on? And even look at the role Ghana played in getting the Malians to resolve their conflict. The AU, the ECOWAS could not push it so hard. Ghana went in, and then, and so on. So there's a lot at stake that cannot be destroyed through violence. I don't think even violence will succeed, but I think that MPP and NDC, they both have a lot to offer if only they will find the basis to engage and decide that, given the peculiarity of the situation, we have 4 years ahead, there will be another opportunity. And so let's see how we work. Let's just be guided by the assumed electorate's will or wish, and work around it and move the country forward. After all, 2012, we saw what happened. 2016, the electorate decided. Who says the electorate will not make that decision? Because they would reflect on the consequences of what they had decided now. That is, if we get all the facts and it's true, then they would know what to do the next time.
Right. Now, President Akufo-Addo says sustaining the country's peace is a shared responsibility, and has entreated Ghanaians to play their part to keep the country together, even after the fiercely contested elections. The president's comments come after pockets of violent clashes and vandalism by some elements who feel aggrieved over the declaration of the results in his favor. Addressing the Muslim community at a Thanksgiving service at the Central Mosque in Accra Friday, President Akufo-Addo expressed hope Ghanaians will find a way to come together as one people. He also commended the National Chief Imam for his peace-building effort and urged him to continue to pray for the nation. Latif Idris has more.
The 2020 general election has somewhat ended. Depending on where you stand, declaration is accepted. And also, depending on where you stand on the other side of it, you would say it's a long stretch and it's far from over. But for the New Patriotic Party and the incumbent party, I'm talking about the Nana Akufo-Addo administration, the elections are over and they are the winners of the 2020 presidential elections. Here at the Central Mosque, President Akufo-Addo said ahead of the elections, the government and the party came to request from Allah 3 things. He enumerated them here and said all 3 have been delivered, and so the mission here was to thank Almighty Allah for fulfilling the supplications the party made ahead of the 2020 general elections.
And all 3 things that we sought from Almighty God through the intercession of the Chief Imam, the Almighty has heard our prayer. So we have come today to say our thanks to the Chief Imam and to the Almighty, that these things that we asked for and prayed for, the peace and unity of our nation, his blessings on his son, the Vice President and now Vice President-elect, and victory in the presidential contest for me and the New Patriotic Party. He has seen fit to grant each one of these prayers. So we are here today to render our humble thanks to the Almighty for listening to our prayers. It is important that all of us remember that each one of us has the responsibility for the peace of our nation. It is not just government, It is each single citizen of our nation has that responsibility. And I'm confident that the good sense of the Ghanaian people will make sure that the peace and stability of our nation, which is the envy of many countries around the world and on our continent, will continue to be so. But in saying, I want to thank the Chief Imam particularly for all that he has been doing to maintain the peace of our nation.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia also mounted the stage and gave thanks to Almighty Allah.
For all things we give thanks to God, and the glory is His. We want to thank the Chief Imam for all his prayers and guidance throughout this process. We have nothing but to ask for peace. The Ghana is the most peaceful country in West Africa, and we want to maintain the peace. We want to maintain our unity. We are a unique country. We Christians and Muslims in this country, we unite, and that is the only way we see development. And the only way we can realize the vision of the President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
I just want to engage some of the chiefs who came in here to grace the occasion. You're welcome to join us, sir. You're welcome to join us.
Thank you.
If you can watch into camera for us. Tell me about the significance of this exercise. We had all the Zongo chiefs gathering here to grace the occasion.
Alhamdulillah.
Tell me about the significance.
Alhamdulillah. It's a very good thing.
And going forward, some will say the elections are far from over, and now we have the administration already undertaking the Thanksgiving exercise. How will this play out going forward?
Yeah, if you heard the head of the Thanksgiving, the National Chief Imam, he said all about we have to thank God to where He has gotten us to at the moment. That the election and after we have peace. So we have to thank God, and then He will do more to you. He, being the head, did not say the election is over or it does. So I think we go by that one. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So he's the Zabarma chief for the entire Greater Accra region, and that is his submission from the Central Mosque here in Accra. This is Latif Idris reporting for Joynews.
A High Court in Cape Coast has sentenced to 5 years imprisonment the driver of one of the passenger buses involved in the accident at the Dompasi Junction on the Cape Coast Takrady Highway earlier this year. The accident claimed 34 lives and left many others injured. The driver, Mreku Mark, was initially charged with 34 counts of dangerous driving contrary to the Road Traffic Act 2004 and 18 counts of negligently causing harm contrary to the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960 by a circuit court in Cape Coast. But the Republic appealed against the sentencing and the conviction of the driver, saying the 1-year jail term was contrary to law. Richard Krejonyako has more in the following report.
On 14 January 2020, at about 12:10 a.m., the driver, who has now been convicted, was in charge of a bus with at least 42 passengers on board, driving from Accra to Takrady. On reaching a section of the road at Dompasi near Commander Junction on the Cape Coast Takrady Main Road, overtook a leading unidentified articulated truck while approaching a curve. In the process, an oncoming bus carrying at least 52 passengers emerged from the curve in the opposite lane from the Takrady direction heading towards Accra. The driver of the said bus, now deceased, together with the now convicted driver, upon realizing the danger ahead, simultaneously swerved to the near side shoulder of the road facing Cape Coast direction. Both buses crashed, eventually resulting to the death of 34 persons, with many sustaining varying degrees of injuries. The accident sparked a national outrage that birthed the Arrive Alive campaign by Joynews and the National Road Safety Authority. At the trial stage, the trial judge, Her Honor Dorinda Smith Arthur, convicted and sentenced Mark Mreku, the driver, to 12 months imprisonment, a sentence that is not lawful. She again ordered the sentence to run consecutively and consequently barred the respondent from driving for commercial purposes for a period of 5 years. In default, serve a 2-year jail term. The Republic appealed the conviction and sentencing of the driver, arguing that a 1-year sentence imposed by the trial court on the driver, having regard to the offence upon conviction, was contrary to law. His Lordship Justice Kwesi Dapai in his judgment noted that the trial court so erred in imposing a 1-year sentence on the respondent in respect of the offence of dangerous driving. He stated that the act of the driver resulted in a national disaster that led to the loss of 34 innocent persons, an act he indicated cannot be compensated for, and thus the law must be strictly applied. He set aside the 1-year jail term imposed by the trial judge and sentenced the driver to a 5-year jail term. Justice Kwesi Dapai also ordered that the sentence should run concurrently instead of the consecutive order by the trial judge. Richard Kwejenyako, Joynews, Cape Coast.
Hello there, and we're back with business. The government must deepen its digital policy to raise more revenue as well as exhibit discipline during its second term. Chartered financial analyst Dr. Williams Kwesi says that it is critical to improve the fiscal economy and prevent the overall economy from getting into trouble. Of course, his advice comes as ratings agency Moody's is warning of some challenging times for Akufo-Addo's government come next year. In its post-election report, Moody's noted that some challenges still remain despite the win. Of course, challenges constraining government credit worthiness, including low growth after the coronavirus shock. He spoke to us earlier on the marketplace.
I think it has come at the right time so that the government will be very cautious in this planning, especially focusing on the fiscal management. We've noted that the debt to GDP ratio, as noted, is going above the 71% threshold, and which is a critical issue. So at this moment, government needs to be disciplined. That is going forward, and also government must make sure that it uses the digitization platforms to be able to rope in enough revenue. The last 4 years saw government focusing on a lot of digitization programs, mobile money, mobility, and the rest. So government must use those platforms to be able to bring in those who are not paying taxes, so that the revenue will increase. As the debt is going up, it's a big issue. Currently, government, we know that their plan will not change because based on their manifesto, they are just going to consolidate what they have done in the last 4 years. Government must be cautious in its borrowing. So if I were the government, what I would do is to focus on how to expand revenue or increase revenue collections.
Now, some businesses want the next Akufo-Addo administration to focus on expanding the tax net rather than introducing new ones. They are concerned that government will from next year introduce new taxes and increase existing ones to help rake in more revenue to address the rising budget deficit. By speaking on PM Express, the chief executive of the extractive and mining firm, Red Moon Humphrey Darker, said the approach may be counterproductive.
I guess that from all intents and purposes, it shouldn't change. Maybe it would rather increase. But let me make a few points here. First of all, I mean, the commendable way in which the EC organized the elections has still asserted and repositioned Ghana as probably one of the best countries with the rule of law and all that. And we do clearly hold proudly to our chest that we are known as being very politically stable. And anyone who would try to usurp that then doesn't have the interest of the country at heart. I mean, but, and I say so because at the end of the day, when the elections were finally declared, it was in consistent, fashion with almost all that independent observers and even the press, and including your own station, had established. And all that information was from the pink sheet. So I still believe very strongly that whatever the Electoral Commissioner did say is a correct thing. And if anybody doesn't agree, then the courts are there for that purpose. And so that is what it is. But so far as the numbers say right now, we have a slim majority. That's what democracy is all about. I mean, we would have loved to have all the seats in parliament if we could. But you subject yourself to the will and the testament of the people, and they tell you what it is. But at the end of the day, the president's responsibility of running the government and running a country cannot be compromised. I think that he's led us in a very positive direction. He's re-established Ghana as a major player in the global affairs and a spearhead in African economic and financial regeneration and emancipation. With the Ghana Beyond Aid, some of the statements he's made, and that are clearly in the direction of moving the continent forward, increasing investment and trade. And so once he's president, I believe that the confidence that most investors have had in Ghana will definitely still be there. And I have seen it because I travel with him, and everywhere we go, Ghana is always the toast of most investors. They want to keep talking.
Well, that was rather the chief executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, WAFU Grant, there, saying that he does not expect development in terms of investment returns to be affected over the hang in Parliament come the next term of President Akufo-Addo there. Let's now take you on to our quick take edition, where the National Labour Commission has been speaking on the reasons for which various employers must adopt proper human resource management in sacking workers.
It's very surprising that even we have strong lawyers coming to the commission and using this as the reason why the employer has done no wrong. But the labor law has added something to the normal common law, and that is that section 61, 62 to 64 requests that there should be a reason for the termination. You don't work with somebody for 14 years, 15 years, and one day you wake up and say, oh, I'll give you 1 month notice, please go. No.
Well, and that'll be all for business. Sports is up next.
Thanks for staying with us, and it's time to bring you the second installment of sports here on Joynews Prime. It's Derby weekend in Europe. In England, Manchester United and Manchester City fan the flames of their ageless rivalry, while Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid go head-to-head in the Madrid Derby. Asari Bediako has been looking at the two big games. Now let's move on to football talent development, because a newly elected member of parliament for the Ejisu constituency, John Kuma, is passionate about identifying and developing football talent in his area. There is more in the following report.
Ashanti region and football are inseparable. It is the home of one of Africa's biggest football clubs, Asante Kotoko. The region has produced countless football stars: Anthony Yeboah, Sami Kuffour, Abdul Razak. The list is endless. Ejisu, a town in the Ashanti region, abounds in football talents, but there are no proper measures in place to identify and develop them. The newly elected member of parliament for the Ejisu constituency, John Kuma, is passionate about identifying and developing football talents in the area.
Ejisu is one area with young talents, especially the youth are very interested in football. So we are setting out, hopefully by early next year, to begin to select young talents, especially those who are interested in football, and then begin to groom them to fit into the various national teams and assist them with the necessary support that they need, both technical and of course on welfare issues as well, so that we'll be able to groom them. Assuming Ejisu gives me 12 years that they've given to everybody, I want to be able to say that in my 12 years, I was able to groom 5 or 10 people into the various national teams from Ejisu into the national team. So it's one of the key pillars or measures of success I want to look out to, that we're able to identify certain talents and deliberately encourage them to play to higher levels.
John Kuma also reviewed plans to upgrade football parks in the Ejiso constituency.
We already have parks almost in every town in Ejiso. Maybe the conditions of the parks is what I have to look at immediately and see how I can join forces with the local people to, even if we can't develop a stadium, we should plant our green grasses properly so that the youth can play on it and enjoy the football. So that's one key thing we can do at our level. It doesn't require much to grow grasses. All we need is constant flow of water and the right grasses to plant and nurture it for maybe a month or two. We begin to have proper green grasses to play. So yes, we have pitches, a lot of pitches, let me say enough pitches in Ejiso to begin to work on it. And then I believe that that will not be an obstacle in our talent hunt.
That's it for sports, and follow us across all the social media platforms, Joy Sports GH, and of course there is more sports on myjoyonline.com/sports. My name is Hans Mengsando. Many thanks for your time.
Of the Ghana Union movement has asked President Akufo-Addo to, as a matter of urgency, put measures in place to end the post-election violence recorded in parts of the country. He said this when he called on the president Friday afternoon.
Political parties, minor ones,
I want you to consider compensating the other political parties that participated in the just ended elections.
Progress of the so and media houses,
because of the contribution we made towards the whole process. Also, I want you to compensate members of the media. For actively participating in the electoral process and making it a success.
Disputes kakra be a banner. With my pave way for them to look into it.
I want you to ensure the violent clashes across the country are permanently brought to a halt.
Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, they've been see that.
So we go back to enjoy the peace that we used to enjoy prior to the elections.
The aftermath of this very election.
Founder and leader of the party that came third in the just ended presidential election, that normalization will require the input of all Ghanaians.
Some of the attorney, the Kwanswana, here say, Bresson, Bibi, Bonnie between a single Ghana.
I acknowledge your call for peace, but I can't do it all by myself. I would need your support and cooperation to maintain the peace and help build a better Ghana.
All right, that'll be all for the Bulletin. I'm Israel. Have a good evening.